the recording has been started.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Yes, so my name is Daniel St. Pierre, and I am a project manager with Statistics Canada, working on the Centre for Municipal and Local Data with Statistics Canada. And today I'm really hoping for us to be able to have a nice discussion about city data and priorities for municipalities and local data. I'll be presenting our project, but I really do want to be having a lot of that discussion and the outreach, which is a huge goal of our project. So this started as an FCM and StatCan collaboration. I'll be talking on that collaboration and how that came to be the foundation of this project. I'll present to you our goals and our objectives, as well as our key deliverables for this fiscal year. I'll be giving a demonstration of our data hub, as well as the financial dashboard that my specific team has created. And then I'll be showing the types of questions and, I'd like to turn the discussion of how our team at Statistics Canada can work better with municipalities. So in 2020, there were 4 small programs at Statistics Canada that were launched, and they were small in the sense they were 1 or 2 analysts for each project. They had small deliverables, and it was really just a feasibility study in a way to see, did this project have enough data and enough interest externally to launch into a larger initiative. So we partnered with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and that partnership was really to give us a voice with municipalities. It was a quick way for us to highlight data priorities within municipalities. There's a way for us to provide updates and to really get the ball rolling quickly on where we can go, because getting sub-provincial data is difficult, and how we present it, who are the key users. So the FCM really helped us make a project scope for the project. And in 2020, we took those 4 initiatives and we put them into one large project, and it's part of our disaggregated data action plan. I'm not sure if you've come across that project with other groups within Statistics Canada, but this is part of that. And really, our goal is to get disaggregated data. So, CSD, municipal, lower sub-provincial data available, and how we can present it. So it initially became a 4-year initiative, and now we're sort of on a year-by-year type of status with DDAP, trying to show the importance of municipal data. So we want to be keeping with that DDAP, that disaggregated data action plan. We're hoping that we can keep getting funding. So it's really important for us to show the interest, to show the need of municipal data. So that's why I'm happy to be here discussing with your group today. Our team consists of economists, we have analysts, we have data scientists, we have standard specialists working with us, and our regional engagement and communication staff with us as well. So it's quite a large team working on it. Some of the team works full-time on the project, and others we bring on here and there as we have different milestones that we're reaching within the project. But it all started with that FCM official partnership with Statistics Canada. Oops. So what's the main goal of our data hub? It's to gradually improve access to municipal data. So we want to be a voice within Statistics Canada to highlight municipal needs, so that we can go to other divisions and try to see what's the hurdle, what's keeping that group from publishing sub-provincial data. So we can get data gaps highlighted by members of the FCM through talking directly with associations and with municipalities, and we can get you in touch with the right people within Statistics Canada. And sometimes our team can bring forward solutions to the hurdles that they're facing. They just might not have time to process their data. They might not have time to build the output, the analytical article, or a data visual to go along with it. So that's where our team can have the discussion to see, is there something we can do to help get that data out the door. We're trying to be a one-stop shop for city data. So we want to be highlighting the data that is available. I'll be showing that. We have a goal of easing the search of available and upcoming data. And we want to be creating analytical outputs that benefit municipal employees, analysts, citizens. So that's really where we need to know, and that's one of my discussion points later, is like, what type of output would you like to see from Statistics Canada? What are you using the data for? Who are your main clients that you're trying to persuade or make your point with our data, so that we can better output and not duplicate those efforts, but can we step in and help municipalities do that? We want to be empowering municipalities with their own data, whether we're doing training sessions or collaborating on the processing and analyzing of the data. And we want to build tools for municipalities so that we're not only helping larger cities that have the capacity. They might have data scientists working within a larger city, but we want to be making tools so that smaller cities that might not have the capacity to process data or the knowledge within their staff, how can we make tools to help them so that they have the same analytical power at their fingertips as some of the larger cities? And we want to be increasing the amount of municipal data just published at Statistics Canada. So highlighting those needs within divisions. It's a large undertaking. Communication's been a huge part of the project, and it's a slow part of the project, but it's something that we've been making great strides in, and our team's been putting a lot of effort within that initiative. So that's the overall view. Really, we just want data to be more accessible. We want more data available, and we want to be improving, the user's knowledge within the data as well. So for this current year, what are our main deliverables? We created and released a standards for municipalities website. So this was thought of a self-serve tool for municipalities. I'll be showing that later how it works, but really it's to say if you're going to be collecting your own data, if you apply these standards, your data in theory will be comparable to Statistics Canada data. We've worked with the quality of life framework team within Statistics Canada. So on July 14th, we will be releasing a Power BI data visual that there's selected variables that fit within the quality of life framework, and we allow for cities to see their own profile, or they can see themselves compared against either the provincial total or against a city of their choosing. A lot of that data, all of the data comes from the census, but really it was for us to highlight these key variables from the census line up into that quality of life framework. And we're planning to have more data visuals, just trying to make the current data that is available, make it more accessible. So we will be having a page that has multiple data dashboards by theme, whether it's infrastructure, transportation, or what have you. We'll have one spot where people can come and see the data visual of their choice. Later this summer, probably going to be moved to the fall, we'll be doing a data visual on diversity of citizens, using the same type of concept we did with the quality of life, where we'll be taking the diversity framework and we'll be putting those variables together. So that way, if cities are talking about diversity, they know they're using the same framework as Statistics Canada. And a lot of our frameworks are then, compared at an international level as well. We are working on having a demography dashboard as well. That's using a lot of the census data, but we're trying to take out from the FCM. We heard their data priorities from the census. They were finding they were being a little overwhelmed for what their data users were needing. So for the users that understand the census data well, there's excellent data explorers to use the census data, but we're making one that's more similar to our other dashboards and a smaller select of variables that the FCM has highlighted as important for their needs. And in late summer, we'll also be having a financial data update to our financial dashboard. So currently, I'll give a demo. We have a socioeconomic and financial dashboard available. It currently has 2018 data available, but we will be releasing 2019 and 2020 for the 35 cities that we currently have available. So we're finishing up editing that data in the month of July, and then we'll be releasing that data and having a new financial dashboard available within the fall. As you can imagine, with 1 year of financial data, there's a very limited analysis you can do. So it's more of a presentation of the data. But once we have a few years of data, we can actually go through and start to apply some more financial analysis. And I see some questions asking about where the dashboards are. I'll be giving a full demo of exactly how to find those, and we'll be sharing these slides, and we'll be sending the links to all of that information as well. One thing our financial dashboard currently has, and we tried to show the power of bringing in the different data, but it's been confusing for users because we have CMA data mixed with CSD data. So it's been shown to be too confusing, and we've tried to do too much within that small dashboard. So we will be removing the CMA data and only having the CSD data available within that financial dashboard. But that's been a large point that we've been hearing back on. We received the feedback that cities would like to have a dwelling count by CSD. Our team initially tried to create that, and just this week we got back feedback from the demography team that our methodology is not robust enough, and it would have to be their team that does it. Unfortunately, they're swamped with revising population counts by CSD, so I don't know when that one will be done, but we're hoping to make headway with that team in the coming years of that as well. And then in the winter, we do have an update to our actual website that will be done, and we'll be coming up with a full plan for our annual financial release, so that when we will know exactly when we'll have the 2021, 2022 data available, we'll be making a full release plan on that as well. So that's what our small team is working on within the coming year. So we do have our municipal data hub that I will open and give a quick demonstration of. And then I'll be doing a demo of our financial and socioeconomic dashboard. And then I wanted to come back to discuss these types of questions. So as you're seeing what I'm showing, keep this in mind of identifying data gaps. What are your data priorities? Which data sets are you currently using from Statistics Canada or outside of Statistics Canada? Are cities available to have open data sets that if we were to give a specific data request of more detailed financial statements, for example, that we don't currently receive, would your cities be in a position to provide that information so that we could provide this type of tool that I'll be showing? Also keep in mind, we have a lot of pilot projects in the future that requires working with a handful of municipalities to report evaluate if reporting certain data is feasible. For example, we met with some asset managers within municipalities. They're part of CNAM, and they would like us to put together some data that's currently collected by Statistics Canada, but it's not released. So we'll be selecting a handful of cities to try to make a pilot project of that. We'll be going with cities that have high quality data available for that. So we need to keep in mind, we don't want to keep using the same cities over and over just because they have strong data. So how can we get other cities included into those pilot projects? And then lastly, just what type of analytical outputs are more useful for your needs? Are articles what you need? Do you need more thorough analysis comparing data sets, or is it something like a simple data visualization that you can use, take snapshots of and include in your reports or in your presentations or discussions? So I'll bring that slide back up, as those are questions that I have for you, and I'd like to see our discussion, but I'll be showing our dashboard now in our demo. So on our Center for Municipal Local Data, and I'll be providing this link to your group, we just quickly highlight that we are in collaboration with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. If you'd like to go there, and there's the link. We do have our link in how we're tied into that disaggregated data action plan. So if you wanted to hear more about that topic, we do have that available for you to go and browse as well. Just below, we have sort of a what's new section where we'll link to different Statistics Canada products that are available. And this is something that we really depend on internal communication to know what's been released and what we should be linking to. For example, when we release our quality of life dashboard, we'll be putting that link through here, but this will be, rotating over time what's available. We have a maximum of 8 items we can link to. And then down below, we have our data catalog, which has a pre-search feature done. In here, we just have it so it's looking at municipal and local data, and we can see there's 491 tables available from Statistics Canada with that municipal and local data. It's something we really want to improve the search on, so that you could almost put in your city and see which tables have your city within it. But it's proven to be very hard to program a strong search engine, and that's why Google is Google and how big they are, because it takes a lot of knowledge and strength to be able to program that. But it is our goal that our IT folk will be able to create something like that for us, so that you could say, oh, I'm in I'm in the city of Clarence, Rockland, and these are the dozen data tables that our city is presented in. That's the goal where we want to head with this. Um, we have our financial and socioeconomic data dashboard. Soon, this will be linking directly to that, that part where we'll have multiple data visuals available. So once we release our quality of life, we'll have a different layout for that. But we do have our financial socioeconomic dashboard that I'll show last, just because we can go into more detail on that. We do have a municipal mapping feature. Second for this to load. So this was created by a different team within Statistics Canada, but it does let you choose your CMA, and then you can choose some different data points. So here's our, we have a select few data tables we brought in. So population, dwelling counts, age, some vehicle registrations of zero emission vehicles. So these were just some various data points that were available. And then when you click on your different areas, you can start to add them. You can choose ones that are outside your CMA as well, so that it starts to bring up just a simple way of comparing your data to those near you. We have our standards for municipalities. So what our team did was we met with another few groups within Statistics Canada that work with city level data, and we highlighted, just some of the standards that could be of interest to municipalities. If there's any that your city is applying in your data and they're a Statistics Canada standard, there's a list of hundreds of them there. So that's why we selected through, because it can be overwhelming when you go to that main list of standards. But we're happy to update this. This is a simple update for us to give more standards on of data that may be of interest to you. So we have business classifications, housing. We have immigration, indigenous, income. When we're looking at labor, and then when we're in here, when we're looking at our finances, when we take a financial statement from a municipality, we apply our government finance statistics framework. So it's a mix of accounting and economics, and the same with the functions of government. And this just is done so that we can be reporting to the OECD and to the IMF, and our data is now comparable at an international level. So we apply that. So if you're wondering about that information, we have that available here. As we add more topics, like if we start our infrastructure project, we'll probably have a specific topic here about infrastructure, so that cities would know this is how we go about applying those standards. Lastly, before I show the financial dashboard, there is the linkable open data environment. I'm not sure if your groups are using this data. You most likely are. I'm not well versed in open data, but there's a team within Statistics Canada that they manage this site, and they have output already available. They have some examples of the database environment viewer. They have some tools that you can be applying. They have their GitHub with information on the scripts and the list of the cities they are connecting to. So this is if you're good at coding and whatnot, this is nicely available. There's so they have an open database of infrastructure, greenhouses. So if you were wondering what your town could be doing with open data, this is a great area to explore, and you could start to see, can you format your data to match these open data sets? It's a great spot to start, because there's current projects with already output available. So if you have your output available, we can put you in touch with the right team so that you're added to these projects. And that's something that we see going to be more powerful in the future as we get better at using open database, because one thing we want to make sure is we're not overburdening cities with surveys and reporting and whatnot. So if there's a way we can really harmonize how everyone's reporting their data, then we can make better use of the open data sets available to us. So that's here. We'll be updating this as we go throughout the year. If there's other types of tools, like we do want to be writing articles and doing more analysis. It's just really with a limited size team, we have to pick and choose what we can build. So that's why we're building some Power BI visuals at first, using data that's already available, and then we hope to be able to have time to write more articles and do some more deep analysis. So I will take a moment to show our financial and socioeconomic dashboard. And the goal of, I have to refresh. Downside of Power BI is if you open it too early, things won't work. So our goal was to show that we can be bringing in different data sets from Statistics Canada and put them into one visual to give some context to financial statements. So we have available for cities, and you'll notice this is at the CSD level when we come to our financial statistics, that we have our list of cities here. And you do get some repeats because, you have Ottawa, the city of Ottawa, but then Hydro Ottawa Holding is a separate company or a separate equity group. So we supply the financial statements at the lowest level possible, and then we do give a group that's added at the top. You can see for Toronto, we have Toronto Parking, Toronto Hydro. And then so if you add those three together, you now have Toronto and all their enterprises. We do this because this way people can choose how they're comparing the data. If you want to be like, if your municipality has parking included in your financial statements, well, you would choose a city with the parking included to give you that comparability. All of this data is available in a standard CODAR table as well. We've gone this route just to try to give as much flexibility to the data as possible. We've included some that you start to get into having, so you'll see this says Niagara Regional Government portion of Niagara Falls. So within regions, all municipalities give X number of dollars to the region, and then the region's providing services to those municipalities. So we had to take into account, local business enterprises. We had to take into account regional governments and then regional government enterprises. So we have 35 cities listed, but you'll see there's 75 lines of code that we've brought in. So we're exploring how we can make this a little easier to go through, but the idea was that disaggregated data, how do we give the lowest level of data available to users? So if you choose, we can take, I can leave it on Montreal, but yeah, we'll leave it on Montreal. We have our revenue and expenses here. We have our expense that you can choose to see. We have it available in dollars, and we also have it available per capita. So we're bringing in the population and dividing our financial by the population. This is why when we showed that, we were asked, can we have this per household? So that's why we need to get a dwelling count by city so that we could have a per household button here as well, so that users could be dividing this per household, because maybe services are more related to the number of houses and not so much the number of people within the houses. So that's something we are looking to build. We have our assets and liabilities available, and then we have our functions of government. So are those public order and safety, economic affairs, environmental protection, and whatnot. And again, you can toggle between total dollars and per capita. I see someone's mentioned the CMA versus CSD. If you're on the financial tab, you have CSD, municipal jurisdiction, CSD. And what I'll show now is when you come to the other topics, we have CMA. And that's because these other topics, except for demography, they don't have these tables available at the CSD level. So our proof of concept, we wouldn't have gotten very far if we were relying only on CSD data. We would have had our financial data, and we could have brought in census data. So we wanted to show, look, we need to bring more data down to the city level. So this was a way for us to be showing that to other groups, but the main feedback we've been getting is that it's too confusing. Like the question we just saw, I'm seeing it at CMA level. That was a huge in our user acceptance testing. It came back that we can't have it this way. It's far too confusing for users. It develops too many questions for the team. So we are going to be removing all of the socioeconomic data. We'll be keeping the demographics because we can have this table at CSD. We put it at CMA because the others are all at CMA, but we will keep this tab so that you can quickly see. Just gives us some nice quick figures for users. So we'll have this and our financial tab, and we'll be exploring the analysis of the finances on this, because we'll have 3 years data published this fall, so we'll be able to actually do some ratios and growth and some comparisons. So this gives the city profile view, but the nice feature is that it gives a quick and easy comparison. So if I go to finances, if I choose, I can take Moncton and Halifax, and we can start to compare cities against each other. You can look at per capita, start to get an idea of how the cities are spending compared to one another. You can move through your topics the same way. It has the same look and feel as the profile, just that there are now 2 of them. Lastly, we have multiple comparison. Here we had to change the layout so that we could allow for the selection of multiple in here. But again, that same idea: revenue, expense, assets, liabilities, COFOG. You can do it with all of your other tables as well. And you can get to your per capita. It gives the same type of feature, just it gets a little messier when you do allow for more cities to be added. So we do have a new version built, which is more user-friendly. We've applied a lot of our user acceptance testing and feedback that we've received. So we do have a much smoother version. We're just waiting for our data to be finished so that we can add that deeper financial analysis to it. Unfortunately, with that, we will be removing the others that we showed that, hey, you can do it. We were able to highlight some limitations of Power BI and how many data tables we can load at one time. So that's really led us to start doing these by topic. Like we'll do one on infrastructure and assets and whatnot. We can't have one that has everything because Power BI just gets too slow. But we have a very nice layout that we will be releasing in the future with that as well. And then on our visuals, if you ever want to see the data, there is the data. Like if we take So you can see this is like, the taxes, the expenses. We have a lot of footnotes here giving cautions on those data points. But if you wanted to get the data for your jurisdiction, you can do that. And if you wanted to get for more jurisdictions than just one, you do our standard add remove, and you can start to see what's available. So we have that available. If you have questions on this, I'd like to discuss those questions today. We can go through the chat on it. And for me, really, highlighting data priorities, and the discussion of open data. What can cities bring to the table for us to be using more CSD data? Are there ways for us to get around survey work and collecting? Or, are there provincial data sets that you're reporting data to provinces in a standard way that we should be going to them to be bringing that data? Like we do that with a lot of the financial data. We get the city financial statements, but a lot of times provinces collect that and then they report it to us. Like in Ontario, we have a fantastic file we get from them that has all Ontario finances laid out in the same way for us. So are there other data sets that we could be maximizing the use of within Statistics Canada? So with that, my presentation. So I'd like to open the floor for discussion, and we can take it from there.
Great. Thank you so much, Daniel, for the presentation. We received several questions as we expected, and we can start from the above and then go through the questions to make sure not, leaving a question behind. So we have from Calgary asking, mentioned that I'm interested in getting local data based on the indicators from the poverty dashboards, and then share the dashboards here. And then next person saying that municipal data is also very valuable to local public health agencies. It would be great to have the data available at fine-grained spatial unit like DA or census tract. And one person asking approximately how many indicators will be on the dashboards.
Yeah, so for the for example, the quality of life dashboard, we wanted to have 20 to 30 indicators, and that got brought down to 4, so that we could fit within their framework. The framework for that is run by the Treasury Board, and it's very strict in how they calculate different variables. One example that we had was the quality of life was there's an indicator about Indigenous languages spoken, but the data table published at the city level is Indigenous languages spoken by anyone. But that quality of life indicator, they don't care if I, as a white male, can speak that Indigenous language. They want to know Indigenous languages spoken by the Indigenous population. So we weren't allowed to include that data point on our quality of life because it didn't fit exactly into their framework. And there were many examples like that where the framework's very very tight, so it's hard to get the data available at those levels. But we've given them a few strong examples that hopefully they'll go back to the census team and get those data points available so that we can include them. So on the quality of life, there's going to be 4. On the diversity framework one, we have about 15 to 20 that are going to be included. And on the financial dashboard, I don't really know how to quantify the number of indicators, but we're going to be showing as much financial analysis as we can. Year over year changes, specific views within 1 year, comparing amongst cities, giving different balances and whatnot. So we'll be putting in anything that makes sense to be calculating and analyzing. We'll be making available in that financial dashboard.
Next question is that where can we find the links to the dashboard? Joan from StatScan shared the link, but we also post all the recording and then presentation site along with the links on our website, Community Data Program webinar page. We have a very detailed question about the Erica Frank mentioned that our municipality participates in several benchmarking initiatives like MBN. Each includes asset management data for StatScan is collected differently. We noticed the collection descriptions are different, which is a struggle. We have to run data different ways, which is a lot of work. Could we not just enter the data that is useful for the municipality? As a note, costing data would be valuable. 1 kilometer road is 2 million.
Yeah, that type of discussion is where we'd be putting you in contact with the group running that program to give detailed feedback like that. It's very valuable. One thing that processing data we always struggle with is you can either standardize the data being reported. So before it comes in the door, you have the respondent standardizing and following our definitions, or you have everyone give the data and then you're trying to harmonize it after the fact. So there are 2 methods of going about that. The one that gives stronger data and more reliable data, standardizing it before collection. But we want to be working with groups to see, is there a way to do that eases reporting? But I can tell from the financial statements, like there's accounting rules in place that cities don't follow, and there's no real pushback from provinces on certain topics for them to follow those accounting principles that have been introduced. So it makes it very hard to harmonize because not everyone's giving you apples and oranges. You'll get a zucchini thrown in there. So it's quite difficult to harmonize after the fact, and that's why when we're looking at an infrastructure program and how to improve the reporting of some infrastructure on like the CCPI or the capital expenditure survey, for example. So we're going to be doing a lot of consultation with CNAM for their asset managers so that we have an association that regularly uses asset data. They're going to their members and coming back to us with, this is how we can standardize or suggest for cities to report. So it takes a lot of conversation and a lot of back and forth to make that happen. But that's where we need to be using associations and groups like this to be saying, what is the best way? What is the easiest? We'll never have all cities accounting and collecting their data in the same way. Something as simple as bike paths is extremely difficult to have all cities agree on what's the definition of a bike path, the quality of it. When does it stop being a bike path and just being a road? Like there's a lot of discussion that has to go in on these like fairly simple topics. So as we get into harder categories such as different types of infrastructure, the life of it, the performance of it, how's it doing? Is it worth the investment and whatnot? If data is trying to be used for those types of conversations, a lot of stakeholder engagement needs to be done so that the data being collected and reported is accurate and it's usable at the end. But for your specific question, Joanna or I would be happy to try to get in contact with that group so that we can relay that message on to them.
Okay, great, thank you. Since we have lots of questions and I don't want to miss the question, I cannot see any new messages. If you have any feedback regarding your questions and Daniel's response, you can unmute yourself and talk. But I'm just going through the questions.
We do have one hand raised.
Oh, okay. So maybe, yeah, if it's okay, so maybe we can go through the older questions and then get back to that person if it's okay. So there is a data request about child development metrics. Lee said, our most recent data in Alberta is from 2014. We don't know how our kids are doing until they hit kindergarten. I'm referring to results from the early childhood development instruments. Also, adult literacy is another data gap. We have another request. I would be interested to further understand how municipalities can provide input to further explain their local data variances. Every city has different influencing factors that impact results. I think it's related to your questions about the evaluation of pilot project. I'm assuming that.
Yeah, so like when I'm looking at interested further to understand how we can provide further explain. Yeah, I don't really know how to go about answering the one, understand how municipalities can provide input. So really it's like, we're looking for municipalities to let us know what data standards are they applying and what data is easily available, what data are they absolutely missing that needs to be comparable to other cities. Like we see that as a role within our team at StatCan is that we don't want to just service the cities that have the capacity to work with us, because that might be they're a bigger city. They have 2 or 3 data scientists working with us that they can really push projects along, but we want to be working in a way that we can work with the smaller cities. So that'd be there's tons of there's so many factors making cities very difficult to have comparable data. I'm sure that this group comes into that. There's a reason for your group to be existing, is that it's very hard to have data and have it comparable across the board. For the other question about our data priorities and pilot projects in the future, I think you copied my question there and put that. That was that one. So yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know how to respond fully to the question of about local data variances. It's a challenging factor that we face day to day.
Great. Thank you. And yeah, regarding your financial dashboard, we had several questions that you responded already about CMA and CA level, but also Alison asking that we only see one, for example, CSD for BC. I only see Vancouver.
So for BC, I think we only had Vancouver available. Our goal, like so there's 35 cities. Those cities, like when you're saying, hey, I'm only seeing 12, there'd be 12 CMAs that you're seeing, but then there's 35 CSDs available. And then those 35 CSDs change into about 75 or 79 lines of data because the regional cities, for example, have the city themselves. They have the city's local government business enterprises. They have the regional government portion, and then they have the regional government business enterprise. So a city can quickly have 4 lines of microdata available for them. So that's how we go from 35 up to the 70 or so. And the way we chose our cities was that we tried to have at least one city by province. And then we took a couple regions within Ontario so that we could figure out, like we had to discuss how do we handle regional where it's not always known how much money is given by city to the region, or the level of service received for that dollar might not be exactly even amongst the different cities within the region. So we chose 2 regions within Ontario to apply. And then if a province happens to have a second city beyond that, it's just because that province had stronger data available that was very clean, so it was easy for us to process and include. So for our release coming up, we'll be keeping that same list. We might be adding 1 or 2 because from this we had cities get in touch with us and answer certain questions that we could edit their data properly to be included. So we'll have a couple more released, and then on future releases after that, we hope to be really expanding this and pushing it forward.
Okay, so it responds to the next question. Is saying, is there a plan to include other CSDs? So it seems there is a plan for that. Great.
Yep.
And we have a question about, do you work with CY data at all? I think it's related to the financial dashboard we're showing us.
I'm not familiar with what CY data refers to.
Yeah, Emily, can you talk about that more? If you can unmute yourself or type your question, that would be great. Yeah, just checking, Okay, so maybe we move to the next question, and then if we receive more explanation. So we have another kind of needs local level data surrounding well-being, safety aspects of health, population forecast, real-time business conditions at the CSD level.
Yeah, business conditions is a huge one for us that we'd love to have more data on that, and it's something that we're pushing. Those other groups have. There's I think one of the business surveys, they do have some CMA level. So we're trying to discuss to them what's needed to get down to a CSD level for some of their output, but it's so hard to get that the business conditions, and then we quickly run into confidentiality if we try to put anything at an industry type of level, because there might only be one company operating within a town for that industry type. So there's a lot more work that's needed on that, and we agree that it's a huge priority because decisions are being made at the city level and not a provincial level for a lot of these topics. And safety is something that was brought up at our disaggregated data discussions, that they want to be potentially looking into that. And so we've pitched that our city team could be discussed into the safety discussions and have the data pertaining to the safety, because again, those decisions and actions are needed at the city level. So it'd be sensible for us to build that program at a lower level. So we are trying to bring that forward each time that we can.
Great. We have a question. Could you elaborate on the source of the financial data? Is there an annual survey that is distributed by StatScan? It seems like this is similar to the Ontario FIR reports. I'm not sure that.
So for our financial data, we do use financial statements from municipalities, but as mentioned, the Ontario FIR, financial information return, we use that in place of the financial statements for Ontario. And there's a huge benefit to that for that. And we're in discussions with the provinces that don't have strong FIRs to what can we do to help them get those FIRs. And it just makes like Ontario, we could, for our financial dashboard, we could within a short amount of time, we could almost release all Ontario cities in it because of that financial information return, just how strong it is and how well reported it is. So we have a few provinces like that where there's really strong municipal financial data. Other provinces, we do not have that base from. So our production staff go to the websites, download the financial statement, and then we take that financial statement and we apply that GFS standard to it. So if you looked line by line of what we output, it doesn't line up exactly to what you'd find on the financial statement, but we do map all of it over into that that framework. And so our team does that. We have a larger team that does an annual release every November. I think it's around November 26th each year. We release that data. We give it over to Finance Canada as well. And then we do have quarterly releases that we do as well. So then our team, those releases are done at a provincial level, and then they'll take a line for all cities within a province. So you can see city finances, but it's like a macro view of all cities within Ontario, all cities within Saskatchewan, but you don't get those individuals. So that's where our project's stepping in, using the same data source, but we are releasing it at that micro record of cities.
And recent statement from Alison Ashcroft saying that LGDE info reported by Ministry of Municipal Affairs in BC reports all financial stats for 183 municipalities.
Yep, and so that's the type of report we try to get. It's just some provinces are feeding us 2018 data at the moment, and other provinces are feeding us 2022 data. So it's that discussion we're having at the provincial level to try to speed up those ones that are a bit behind the scenes or behind the like lagging a bit time-wise. We're trying to bring that forward to the different, whether it's municipal affairs or whatnot within each province. We're having discussions with them to try to improve that that reporting.
We already talked about the CSD level data, but the question is just about the data that only available in CMA level. Is there any plan to start releasing or collecting at the CSD level? Also, is there any plan to have additional CSDs beyond the big cities? That I think you responded.
So we are trying to get more added. Unfortunately, with this, like Wilmot, Ontario is a very small city. So there are a few small cities that we've added just in an effort to solve some methodology questions behind the scene. For the bigger cities, though, they will probably be added because there's more data available for other projects that are available for them. Like we have, we're working on getting the data for the top 110 cities within Canada released, but one of our goals is to have items for smaller cities too. So when we do release the quality of life framework, it has every CSD in Canada added to it, but it's coming from the census. But once we step outside the door of the census, the list of cities quickly shrinks on the data available. But for our financial dashboards, like I have one person who gets to edit data for 2 months a year. So it's really limited how many, and each city takes, 2 or 3 days of editing by that person. So it's really limited to how much we can edit and get out the door. Just we're a small funded project on that, but it is our goal that on our financial dashboard, we'd have as many cities that have reliable data available for us.
Right. So we have only 10 minutes. I would like to ask you, please just respond in a very shortly. We have one person just raised a hand, but I don't see that person. If you can hear me and want to talk, please unmute yourself and talk, or maybe chat or raise your chat and add your question in the chat box or raise your hand again. Sorry about that. We just have tons of questions and we are trying to have all of it. Okay, so yeah, please go ahead and talk.
Hi. Sorry, I just started to type into the chat and then realized that it was time for me to speak. So Thanks for letting me talk with you. It's an elaborate question in a sense. It's a gap that we've identified and don't know how to tackle. So we noticed in the region of Peel, the local immigration partnership, in the census data and from the Peel Data Center that, I think roughly 69,000 temporary residents are in Peel, but it's unclear sort of how many and what categories they're coming through. And like, obviously someone who's a home care worker, we're gonna need to offer very different services than someone who is, for instance, a truck driver. And so the province, to a limited extent, funds services. The federal government doesn't fund services at all for temporary residents. And so like 1/3 of the immigrants in the region, roughly, I believe, don't quote me, are temporary status. So we just don't have data in general at the municipal level. They're implementing a municipal level labor recruitment project as well. The federal government is, I believe. And so like all of these pieces are coming into play. And we're just having a lot of trouble identifying this population and understanding it, so we can provide services and request funding for this population group. And so, yeah, that's a piece that isn't clear, and it feels good to talk about it with you folks and sort of see if we can get more clarity.
Yeah, and it's obviously like that type of issue. I imagine there's a few other pockets across Canada facing that, but the Peel region would be one that would see that more just to your location. So that's the type of thing that Joanne and I would probably reach out to the demography group who do estimation of population at a sub-provincial level, that they may have methods and data sets available to them that we could look into. So Joanne, if we can put that as a follow-up action item, that we take that question to them, that'd be great.
Certainly. Yeah, I'm going to message her directly.
Okay, and I talked to Patrick often as well, because he's been collaborating with us on that dwelling count. So if we need, I can follow up with him. So sorry, I don't have an answer for you, but we will follow up directly with the team working with those types of data sets.
I just added it to the chat also, so you have some notes.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm just going quickly through the questions, and we're trying to capture all the questions. So question is, how can other cities get involved in this database?
Yeah, so for the financial data, it's really to let us know that your city's interested. Like we had someone from Medicine Hat reach out to us asking some questions. I put them in contact with the open data group so that they can start. That open data quickly showed they're starting to get their data sets in line with that. And then they answered a couple questions for our financial team that we were able to ask. So if your city would like to be on our dashboard, you can reach out to Joanne or myself, and we're happy to see what hurdles are in the way on that, and we'll do our best to get you included.
Okay, great. So I'm sure that Joan maybe post her email or Daniel's email. That would be great. So we can follow up. So we have another one. I work in housing, and it would be helpful to have household income data broken out into income qualities, quantities, in addition to the median. For your work on the tax data, it might be useful to have revenue and expenses broken down by tax-paying an entity to capture commercial taxpayers as well. Per household value might end up inflated. Mm-hmm. Communication of data is important. Also, would it be possible, or is there interest to create a visualization tool that you can load data into, generate a graphic for if my city is a village of 100 people?
Yeah, that's something that we want to be heading with open data. And that's the exact type of idea, was that we would be building a tool where you load your data and then it would be visualizing it right back for you. It just takes some IT resources, and our project scope got reduced. So that is something that we do want to be building. It's that exact type of, like, can we build an R program so that cities that don't have the skill set to build the visuals, they have the data, and if you format your data a certain way, you can just load it into the visual. So we'd love to be doing something like that in the future.
Great. The next question is, why does dashboard use 2018? Municipalities report financial stats annually on a year lag. 2021 data is available in LGDE now here in BC, which is already pretty old.
Yeah, and that's just because at the time we were building this one, 2018 was the most recent year available for the cities. Cities report pretty quickly to the provinces, but then for the provinces to report to StatCan is, some of the provinces are giving us 2018 data right now, for example, and we're asking for 2022 data. So it really depends on the region, and it's not just one province that has an issue. There's a good number, but we're in discussions trying to improve that. And we are releasing 2019 and 2020 this fall to catch up with our annual release, because our annual release will be releasing 2022 this fall, and then that means in the winter we can release 2022 after them.
Okay. Any plans to disaggregate immigrant economic outcome data from IMDb at the municipal level?
I'm not sure. The group's looking at the immigration statistics, so I can't answer to that. I don't know if Joanne, if you happen to have an answer to that.
I'm sorry, immigrant statistics? I was distracted.
Yeah,
Apologies.
disaggregated immigrant economic outcomes data from IMDb at the municipal level.
Yes, I know there's a lot of information in that database, and there's a longitudinal database as well. So it would depend on sort of the other elements of what they're looking for. Length of stay in Canada, families, individuals. There's a lot of elements there. Mainly, I think the length of stay in Canada is a key factor in outcomes. But if I put my email in the chat, and if they want to write to me directly, I'd be happy to help them.
Great, thanks, Joanne. So thanks for this effort. Looking forward to what can be provided. Perhaps focus groups with representatives from municipalities could help out. Likely many indicators are needed, estimations of houseless people per capita, for example. So we have Garrett Murray. This is just a great suggestion. Maybe we can have another meeting later with just with Daniel, Juan, and CDP team to think about the next steps, and we'll get back to CDP members.
Yeah, and the model we've done with FCM works great, where that group come up with their list of priorities, what's something, and then they come to us with 4 or 5 priorities for us to really try to be tackling that year. Our team is very small working on it, but we are putting in a lot of effort, and the more communication we can do externally and internally is key. So if your group is able to come up with suggestions for us, we'd love to have some of those priorities, or being an advocate for pilot projects. If we're able to use your group as a voice saying, hey, this project team at Statistics Canada, they're not related to me, but they're doing a city level project, they might need 10, 12 cities who have satellite imagery data available, for example, and they want to do a project on that. So if your group has cities with that, the means to have that data available, we could make them be included. So there's a lot of potential for collaboration and discussion in the future, even if you guys are having that discussion yourselves and then communicating to Joanne or myself, for sure. We'd like to have that.
Right. So some chats are not questions, so we will definitely share it with you, Daniel, at the end, all the feedbacks and all the gaps and requests. I'm just trying to find if there is a question here that I missed. I see that Michael Dieter is just responded to some of them very well. Yeah, all the requests. Yeah, what is the best way to reach out to your team? As we mentioned, Daniel's email and Joan's email will be posted or already posted, in the email. And are you able to share your emails or general communication email for municipality that want to get involved in the database? Is it something that we're kind of doing in the future, or maybe later when we have a meeting together? Okay. So there is a question. Are you looking at? I am not familiar with this XBRL. So data can be reported once is one format to provinces and STC and CRA and IC simultaneously.
I'm not sure XBRL. I'm not too close with the processing of the data. We have asked provinces that are having a hard time reporting to us, what current systems are they using. We've asked the stronger provinces, what are they using, to see if we can replicate that. And maybe a role of StatCan is that we can help them create a system that they can more easily report. But for example, some provinces, they receive PDF files from every city, and then they're manually typing that into Excel. So that's not feasible when you're reporting for thousands of municipalities within a province. Other parts, it's just that, provinces don't have standards of how they classify different topics for the financial statements. So then each city's giving them a mix. So it's like they need to be making regulatory changes to how cities are keeping track of their finances. So it is that idea, can there be a standard done so that like you mentioned, StatCan, CRA and whatnot, can we simplify that process so it's coming in a way that is usable by everyone?
Great. And XBRL is an interoperable electronic data format. It's not familiar with, but thank you, Alison. This is 2:33. If anyone wants to leave, that would be okay. We're still we'll be here for a couple of minutes to see that if we miss any question and respond to that. And thank you very much, Daniel, for your presentation, and thank you all for joining us.
And I'll just add, if you have a specific question about a data program at StatCan, and if we haven't hit on it, like I saw there was a question about early education that we didn't get to. If there's any of them, please write to myself and to Joanne, and we'll be putting you in touch with those groups if we can. That's really that's the key role of like for this group to have Joanne available to you is fantastic, because she specializes in knowing what's around Statistics Canada. Like my focus is a little more tunnel vision, but I'm trying to learn more about what's available. So we'll definitely try to get you into talks with the right people.
Great. Thank you very much. So I'm just asking, did I miss anyone, any questions? If yes, so if you can please unmute yourself and talk about your questions. I'm sorry if I miss your questions. We had tons of questions. But also, yes, we will share the links as well as all the presentation slides and recording. And John, can we have a meeting chat kind of in a Word format or something? Is it possible? So we can share it with Daniel, because we have lots of valuable interests and requests from the people here.
I can try. I've tried that before and it didn't work too well, but we can try again. It's saved for a week, so we can figure something out.
Great. I can also copy and paste all the chat responses as well. I think it works too. So I'm just checking with you. If I missed any questions, can you please unmute yourself and ask your questions? Okay, so we have.
I have a quick question. Sure. Related to the quality of life dashboard that's going to be released in July. Will there be some synergy with the poverty dashboard? Are the indicators going to be similar? Do you know?
I'm not. I don't think so. There'll be like there's only 4 variables we've been able to include. So just to make them fit into the framework. So off the top of my head, I'm not sure exactly which ones made it through, as it's been a different analyst that's built it. But we are happy to try to get in contact with like if there's a poverty one at a higher level that needs to be done at a city level, we'd be happy to try to make that happen with that other group as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. Okay, so it looks like we responded most of the questions. I hope so. Thank you so much, Daniel, for your time. It was very helpful and very interesting. Sadly, I forgot to talk about our next webinar, but I hope that people are here. So next webinar will take place on Tuesday, July 1st, which is actually next week from 1:30 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. My colleague Michael Deiter and I will present a webinar-based orientation with an overview of the Community Data Program, Data Consortia, and member organization. We'll talk about the types of data available in the catalog, as well as how to navigate the CTP catalog to select and download data. We will also have a live tour of the website and Q&A session. I'm going to put the next week webinar link to the chat box for registration and more information. And as always, if you have any questions for CDP team or you want us to connect you with the StatScan people, you can email us at information@communitydata.ca. So with that, I would like to thank you everyone for joining us and hopefully see you in the next webinars and CDP. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.